Hello everyone, it's Shannon here, and in today's video we're going to focus on creating this rainbow layered background. This background was created by combining several different techniques, and it just has a really fun dimensional look even though it's completely flat. We're going to start with an A2 panel of sand cardstock. It's basically a craft cardstock. This awesome abstract frames stencil from Hero Arts, and then unicorn pigment ink, which is a white pigment ink from Hero Arts. I'm going to place the stencil down over this A2 panel of sand cardstock and just quickly ink blend pretty heavy-handedly all over the stencil with that white pigment ink. This is going to create a base and allow our colors to pop a little bit more when we ink blend on top of it. I'm of course using basically like a craft cardstock, but any cardstock, any colored cardstock would work for this technique, but something a little bit on the lighter side works a little bit better. Too dark, you're not going to get any contrast between the white pigment areas and the natural craft cardstock layers when we do this second coat here. So here I've got the stencil again, I cleaned it off. I'm positioning it in a different way, so I'm not lining it up with where I ink blended before. I'm going to use a couple pieces of tape to hold it in place because I'm going to ink blend several colors here, starting with Taffy Reactive ink. This is a ink from Hero Arts, and I'm ink blending at an angle, at a diagonal here, just to make my rainbow a little bit more interesting than just going kind of vertical or horizontal across. My next color is Fruit Punch. Here we're onto our orange, which is Creamsicle, and all of these colors are reactive inks, which just means they're a hybrid ink which is a blend between a dye and a pigment. Dye would even work probably a little bit better than this reactive ink. You're going to get more contrast, but I do like how vibrant these reactive inks are. I do like that. So I just finished up with my yellow, which was Lemon Drop. Now we're moving on to a green, which is Key Lime Fizz. After we finish that, we just have two more colors to go. I used a lot of colors on this rainbow. This one is kind of an aqua, it's Pool Party, and then we'll finish up with a kind of a deep blue, which is Blue Hawaii. I'm just going to grab that next. Here it is, and do that last little corner here. And how pretty are these colors together? I love them. And when we lift up the stencil here, I'm just kind of fine-tuning this blend, going back over some of my other colors. But once we finish ink blending, I'll lift this up to the camera and you'll see that the color is more intense over the white pigment areas and a little bit deeper where it is ink blended over just the cardstock, just that sand cardstock. So that adds a little bit more dimension, basically faux dimension, to that background. Now I have a background stamp here. This is the Abstract Frames Bold Prints from Hero Arts, and I'm going to use my Sweet Petunia sticky mat to keep my panel in place when I stamp on this. This is so handy, these sticky mats, for these bold print stamps from Hero Arts, because this way I can make sure I stamp the whole panel. If I were to put that panel right up to the corner of my MISTI, I wouldn't get the complete coverage of the stamp because it'd be a little bit blocked by the thickness of the walls of the MISTI. So this sticky mat really helps, especially since here I'm going to be stamping this several times. So I paid attention to kind of how the area and at the angle I want to stamp these colors, because basically I'm stamping this with my rainbow colors, the same colors that I used for the rainbow background, but I want to stamp them kind of matching them up to where they are on that panel. So it's kind of like a mirrored look, basically, kind of almost like, you know, butterfly wings where they're mirrored on either side. And that's kind of how I'm inking this up, just to ensure that where I ink it up with that lemon drop, it's right where I ink blended that lemon drop on the panel. And by stamping this background stamp over this panel, it's going to add these lines that will add more depth to the image, even more kind of faux depth to the image. But by purely stamping this, because obviously these are the same inks, but by stamping them, they're going to be more intense and deeper and darker than the ink blend. It's just stamping is usually you'll get an more intense color. So I'm just finishing up here with Blue Hawaii, and now hold up to the camera so you can see all the depth. We finished all of our layers on this panel. And it's just really cool, kind of fun to kind of combine different techniques, combine stencils, combine white pigment ink, and even a stamp to add a lot of interest to a background. So now we're going to finish this up with a sentiment. I went ahead and die cut congrats out of white cardstock. I'm also going to die cut this exclamation point. This die is from the Congrats and Yay stamp and die XL set from Hero Arts. I've also die cut kind of this shadow layer or matte layer out of vellum, and then I'm going to just adhere the craft or the white cardstock sentiment and exclamation point to their vellum mats with just some liquid adhesive. This little bit of vellum will help to make that sentiment kind of pop away from that background because it is kind of busy. It's got a lot going on. And once I finish sticking those guys down, we're going to move on to adding some foam adhesive to the back. And this will even more so help that sentiment to pop away from the background. This little bit of dimension will make that vellum a little bit more opaque, and again, just help your eye to separate it from the background. Now we're moving on to our sub sentiment. So I have the stamp set from the Congrats and Yay stamp and cut, and I just pulled off a sub sentiment from that set. I'm going to heat emboss it on this black cardstock, so I did apply some anti-static powder, stamped it in Versamark watermark ink, and just dipped into some white embossing powder. Once I heat set this, then I am going to actually fussy cut this out. First I'll just kind of remove the excess, so then I can go in with my scissors and really kind of fine tune this sentiment. Just following along the curves, kind of mimicking what it would look like if it was die cut out, so I have that little border around my sentiment. And here's my finished fussy cut sentiment, ready for me to add some foam adhesive to the backside, which I have already. You can kind of see it to the right there. First thing I'm going to do to finish up this card is adhere that rainbow background onto an A2 top folding white card base with just some liquid adhesive. Then I'm going to move on to my die cut sentiment and as well as my sub sentiment. But I'm going to start with my die cut sentiment, kind of lift it up and pull off all the backing on all of that foam adhesive that we added to the background. Also do that to my little exclamation point, which is so cute. Kind of positioning it like offset over to the right, which is something a little different, but I really like how it looks on this card. And then I'll finish up with my sub sentiment, just remove the backing on the foam adhesive and stick that guy down as well. Now I'll hold up to the camera so you can get a good look at all the details in this card. I love how fun this looks. That rainbow background is so pretty and so interesting, and because of all the layers, I'm sure it's going to leave your recipient wondering how you did that. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you have any questions about the products I used, please check out the links below in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.